Hi everyone in Algebra 2B. Today we're going to be going over your questions on lesson 108A. And we're going to start on number 4. So for number 4, we have a word problem here that says yellows vary directly as greens squared and inversely as blues. So what we need to refer back to is our notes from lesson 96. So it says that yellows vary directly. So I'm just going to do y1 over y2. And it says directly as green squared. So directly means it goes like this. So it's just going to be g1 over g2. And we're going to square that. And then it says inversely. So we have to flip it to blue. So this is going to be b2 over b1. So directly stays the same. Inversely, you have to flip it, and that's from lesson 96. So it says that when there were 100 yellows, there are 5 blues and 1 green. So 100 yellow would be my y1. And it says 5 blues, so that would be my b1, and it says 1 green. So my g1 is just 1 squared, and my b1 is going to be equal to 5. Now we're going to input how many blues went with 10 yellows and 10 greens. So how many blues? We're solving for B. And we have 10 yellows and 10 greens. So y2 is 10. And g2 is also 10, but we have to square that. So we're going to cross multiply. I'm going to have 10 times 1, which is just going to be 10x equals 100 times 100 times 5. Divide both sides by 10. So really we get 100 times 100 times 5 divided by 10 would give us 5,000. Okay, and that would be 5,000 blues. Okay, now moving on to number 5, we have the current in the river was 3 miles per hour. So the fast boat could go 92 miles downstream in the same time it took to go 68 miles upstream. How long did each trip take, and what was the speed of the boat in still water? So the current of the river W is equal to 3. The distance downstream is 92. The distance upstream is 68, and it actually said the time down is equal to the time up. Now we have 2 equations for downstream. We have B plus W times TD equals DD. And for upstream, we have B minus W times TU equals DU. So I don't know what B is, but I do know what W is 3, and TD is equal to TU. DD is 92. I'm going to distribute the TU, so I have B TU plus 3 TU equals 92. The other equation I have now on number 5, so we currently have BTU minus 3TU equals 68. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to multiply one of these equations by -1 and eliminate the BTU. So that would be negative BTU plus 3TU equals negative 68. So my BTU is going to cancel. And then I'm going to have 6TU is equal to 92 minus 68, which gives us 24. So TU is going to be equal to 4. Now to solve for B, I'm going to do B times 4 minus 3 times 4 equals 68. When I move the 12 to the other side, it becomes positive. So I have 4B is equal to 80. So the boat is equal to 20. So that's the speed of the boat in still water. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at number 10. This is what our n is going to be equal to. Be 4.123 dot. Now all I need to multiply this number by is 10 so that the decimal point only moves over once because there's only one repeating decimal. So it's going to be 10n equals 41.233 dot. So now my dots will cancel, my 3 will cancel, and this 3 will cancel when I subtract. So that becomes 9n is equal to, this is 41.23 minus 4.12, and that would be 37.11. You're going to divide both sides by 9. I want to move the decimal over 2 spaces on top and bottom. So my number is going to be, or my fraction is going to be 3,711 over 900. Now moving on to number 11. So for this lesson, we're going to go back to lesson 100, and we need to get an equation that's going to look something like this. So what I'm going to start by doing is putting all the x's in parentheses. So I get x squared minus 2x, leave a space, minus 1. When I complete the square, I take half of that term, so that would be x minus 1 squared. When I square it, it becomes plus 1. Now remember, whatever I do to the inside, I have to do the opposite to the outside. So I'm going to subtract 1. That'll give us negative 2. Now following this equation here, the plus sign on the outside of the x minus 1 tells us that this is going to be half b-faced parabola. It's going to face up. I'm going to set x minus 1 equal to 0 to solve for my axis of symmetry. So that will be at x is equal to 1. And this right here is going to be my vertex where I'm going to start. So on my graph, I am going to put my dotted line at positive 1, x is equal to 1. And then my vertex is negative 2, so I go down 2. Now I'm going to use this chart here. So from my vertex, I go over 1, up 1 in either direction. And then I'm going to go over 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then over 2, up 4. So your diagram should look something like this. And that concludes number 11. That's from lesson 100. So if you have questions on that, make sure you refer back to lesson 100 for that. Now for graphing a absolute value on a number line, I'm going to start by moving the 3 to the other side. So I get negative absolute value of x is less than negative 2. When I divide by negative 1, it's going to flip my inequality. So that's going to become the absolute value of x is greater than 2. Now I'm going to refer back to my cheat sheet here. So that says when the absolute value is greater than, you're going to go to the positive and the negative of that value and then point your arrows away. So it goes from the positive and the negative of that value, and then you point away. So that's when your absolute value is greater than your whole number. So I'm going to have points negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We are doing this for real, so it's going to be a point with an arrow. So on 2 and negative 2, I'm going to have open circles because there's no equal sign. And then again, you're going to point these away from each other. So it should be a dark line going away from each other. So your thing should look like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at number 13. I'm going to start for number 13 by multiplying the top equation by 20 and then multiplying the bottom equation by 1,000 because of all the decimal places. So when I multiply the top by 20, I get 8x minus 5y is equal to 40. When I multiply the bottom by 1,000, it's going to be negative 8x, 1, 2, 3, minus 200y equals 1, 2, 3, negative 1,680. Now if I add those together, I really just get negative 205y is equal to, so 1680, make it negative and add 40 to it, you get negative 1640. And you can divide that by negative 205, which tells me y is equal to 8. Now that I know what y is equal to, I'm going to plug it into the top equation because of the smaller numbers. So I have 8x minus 5 times 8 equals 40. If I move this negative 40 to the other side, I add it. So I have 8x is equal to 80, and therefore x is equal to 10. So make them into whole numbers before you do substitution or elimination. Now looking at number 14, I'm going to solve the bottom equation for y before inputting it into the equation. That's going to give me y is equal to 2x plus 2. And that inputted would become x squared times 2x plus 2 squared, which would be 2x plus 2 equals 5. We do have to multiply that out. So this is going to become x squared. 2x times 2x would be 4x squared. 2x times 2 would be 4x. 2 times 2x would be 4x, and then 2 times 2 is 4. We also want to bring the 5 over, so I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now I can add the x squareds together. That would be 5x squared. Add the 4x's together. That would be 8x. And then the 4 and the negative 5 would be negative 1 equals 0. Now what you're going to do is you can solve by quadratic formula or by completing the square. Since I completed the square in the last lesson, I'm going to do quadratic formula on this one, meaning that I get x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So that would give me negative 8 over 10 plus or minus the square root of 64 plus 20 over 10. So that would be equal to negative 4 over 5 plus or minus. So the square root of 84, I can divide that by 2, divide that by 2, and I get 2 square root 21 over 10. And that gives me an answer for x as negative 4 over 5 plus or minus the square root of 21 over 5. Oops, don't say 10, it's 5. Now what I need to do is I need to solve for y. So I'm going to plug this whole thing in for x. So I have y is equal to 2 times negative 4 over 5 plus or minus the square root of 21 over 5, and then plus 2. If I distribute that 2, I get y is equal to negative 8 over 5 plus or minus 2 root 21 over 5, and then plus 2. So I would want to add this and the 2. Common denominator would be 5. 10 over 5 minus 8 over 5 would be 2 over 5, plus or minus 2 root 11 over 5. And that would conclude number 14. So lots of steps on that one. Now, lastly, looking at number 15. So number 15, usually these are pretty tricky, but this one is actually pretty easy because what you're gonna do is if you look at the bottom two equations, if you were to add those together, notice that the x's actually cancel. So you really just have negative 2z is equal to negative 8. So therefore, z is equal to 4. Now I can easily just solve for x using either the middle or the bottom equation. I'm going to choose the bottom, so that would be negative 3x plus 4 equals 1. Just subtract the 4, so I get negative 3x is equal to negative 3, so therefore x is equal to positive 1. And then lastly, I just need to solve for y by plugging it into the top equation. So I get 4 times 1 plus 2y equals 8. If I move the 4 to the other side, it becomes negative. So you have 2y is equal to 4, and therefore y is equal to 2. And that should conclude your questions on lesson 108A. I hope you guys all have a great day. Bye.